Are you looking for a new pair of rimless glasses in 2024? Well then, this is the video for you, because today we're going to be talking about basically everything to do with rimless glasses. Not only exploring some of the world's very best rimless frame brands, but also talking through the pros, the cons, and everything you need to know. So hi, I'm Robert, style and vision consultant here at the Spectacle Factory, and it's my job to pair you with your perfect pair of glasses. Especially your perfect pair of rimless glasses, because they are the type of glasses that give you the most opportunity for customization. And custom eyewear is what we are all about. Let's start by talking about the advantages and the disadvantages of rimless frames. If you want glasses that basically disappear, rimless frames have got you covered, because they can look like the next nearest thing to not wearing glasses at all. And for a lot of people, that is still what they want. And that's perfectly summarized by Flair, the actual original inventors of rimless glasses. So they have been making rimless frames longer than anybody, and they still make them in their own factory in Germany. Their pure series of rimless frames is the encapsulation of minimalism. If you want glasses that are, like I said, almost literally not there, then these are the glasses for you. Particularly with the W or saddle bridge as it's known. They can be customized with either a regular bridge with normal nose pads or the saddle bridge. And with the saddle bridge, they become even more subtle on the face, and actually, in my opinion, even more comfortable, because you don't have those pressure points either side of the nose. And that is the reason why Flair have endured as the world's first and the world's therefore longest manufacturer of rimless frames. But nevertheless, and this leads me on to one of the perceived disadvantages of rimless glasses, they're still very durable. And I think it is a big misconception that rimless glasses are flimsy or easy to break. Take the McLaren Rimless series, for example. These are very sporty, very durable, very grippy, and very solid. This frame is machined from solid titanium with recycled Formula One tires used in the temples, which is a really interesting and unique design. The rubber material gives extremely good grip on the face, so these frames will never move, even if you're doing sports. And these frames will take quite a beating as well. Now the lenses may not, and that is actually, if you've ever broken a pair of rimless glasses, probably where they failed. When rimless glasses do break, it tends to be at these drill points where the frame is mounted onto the lens itself. See, the lens needs to be strong enough to withstand any kind of pressure that is applied to the frame. So many optical stores out there will sell rimless glasses with cheap, flimsy lenses, and then people wonder why they break. Now, there are two main materials that I recommend for rimless glasses. The first one, the obvious one, is a material called Trivex. Why? Because Trivex is the strongest lens material there is. If you have a Trivex lens in a rimless frame, it will not break, and we will actually guarantee it against breaking for the life of the prescription, which is 2 years. Trivex was a material originally developed for military aircraft windshields, so it will literally stop a bullet. Trivex has superseded the old-fashioned polycarbonate, which is a material that you should avoid, because although polycarbonate is almost as strong as Trivex and about as light as Trivex, although Trivex is slightly lighter as well, polycarbonate produces really poor optics, so the clarity that you get through the lenses is nowhere near as high as Trivex. Now, Trivex is good in terms of durability, but it's not so good in terms of customization. And customization is one of the really big advantages with rimless frames. Because no matter what rimless frames you choose, and Cartier are a perfect example of this, you can customize the size and the shape of the lenses to your heart's content. A perfect example is the Reykjavik Eyes Alba that you see me wearing, one of my absolute favorite pairs of glasses. The stock shape on these is completely different to this, and they therefore look completely different to this. But with my own custom shape, which actually incidentally is featured here on the Panther de Cartier as well, and the custom tint, of course, it completely transforms them into a one-of-a-kind pair. That is the awesome advantage of rimless frames, that opportunity for customization, for basically doing whatever you want with the lens. Ultimately on your glasses, the lens is the thing that you mostly see, so being able to customize the lens can give you the most creative freedom to design something really unique to you. Anyway, the point I was getting to is that with customization and things like lens tints, the next best material is 1.67 index plastic. Not only is that ultra thin, which obviously tends to suit minimalistic frames like rimless, 1.67 can be tinted with literally any color, it can be photochromic, it can have any coating applied. But meanwhile, it is still very strong. It's not unbreakable like Trivex, but it's very strong and it will still withstand most impacts. In summary, with the right lens material choice, rimless glasses can be very durable. So what are the disadvantages of rimless frames? Well, The only one that I can really think of is higher maintenance. You see, most rimless frames, like these Masunagas that you see here, are fitted together with a nut and a bolt. We drill a hole through the lens, we fit a screw through the front, and then a bolt is fitted onto the back, and that holds the whole frame together. Naturally, just like anything, the screw will work loose over time, so it does need to be periodically tightened. Generally speaking, that's around every 6 months, but your mileage may vary. And for people who are less careful with their glasses, they will find that they need to be tightened up more often. When I say less careful, one of the big tips that I have, one of the bad glasses habits that people have, is to always take your glasses off with 2 hands rather than 1, because if you take them off like this, where does the pressure apply? Always to here. And that's going to loosen your rimless glasses very quickly. Now, in addition to the nut and bolt system, the most common fitting system for rimless glasses is the plug system. So here we have a silicone plug at the temple and the bridge, which again goes through the lens. In this case, there's 2 drill holes applied. And the frame itself will have pins on, which then go into those bushings. So that holds the whole frame together with tension. This is not quite as durable as the nut and bolt, but it is less conspicuous. And if the frame itself is durable, you don't have to worry. So for example, with Reykjavik Eyes frames, because they're made from such a flexible material, it's the actual frame that is taking that torque when I stretch it. So that means that with that plug fitting system, as it's known, these glasses are actually still really durable. Now again, it will need to be tightened up every so often, maybe not quite as frequently as the nut and bolt, but you still have to look after it to some degree. Finally, you have the more bespoke rimless fittings, as you see with Lindberg and Flair. With Lindberg, they have their proprietary system for fitting the frame to the lens, which sees the frame actually come through the front, all the way through the front. For this to be done correctly, it has to be machined absolutely perfectly. We're talking more accurately than 1/10 of a millimeter, because it's that looping system where the frame is mounted in that allows it to hold under tension, even again, despite flexing it. So Lindberg is one of those brands that you really don't want to buy from just any place. You want to buy them from a specialist who's going to mount that frame perfectly. Flair's system is actually my favorite overall. They are actually stitched together with a nylon thread. So this system actually features 3 holes through the lens. I would say that Flair are the frame that you can flex the most without them coming loose. Flair frames, if you're going to be fairly careful with your glasses, are ideal because in theory, this frame will be maintenance-free for its entire lifespan until you decide to fit new lenses to it. So now that we've covered the different fitting systems that you can find in rimless glasses, and we've talked about the pros and the cons, as well as the various different lens materials that are ideally suited, now it's time to look at some of the world's best rimless frames. But I guess it makes sense to start with the most simplistic, which in my opinion are the Porsche Design Liquid Titanium series. Now, with Porsche Design, this frame is just very straightforward, but there is an incredible amount of beauty in that simplicity as well. The characteristic feature of the Porsche Design Rimless series is the molded titanium bridge, which may seem quite harsh and quite angular, but is actually extremely comfortable to wear. These are designed with straight fitting arms, which you'll also see on the McLaren glasses that we're going to get to shortly. And the Liquid Titanium series is just titanium in its most simple form. As you'd expect from Porsche Design, they're extremely well machined, extremely high quality, all made in Japan. They feature the most universal plug mounting system, and they come in a variety of different colors. Here today we have the black, we have the shiny blue, which is really, really nice. Let's see how that one looks. In this case, it's actually got silver nose pads to add a little bit of a contrast. And you have the matte gold. Now there are more colors than this. You've got a gray, and you've also got a shiny gold. But these 3 colors are, in my opinion, the best. And you'll notice that the shapes on all 3 of these are pretty similar to each other. I do find that most people who order Porsche Design are looking for that straightforward rectangular look. And I do think it flows very well with the overall shape of the frames, because these actually take some of the proportions and some of the curves from the famous 911 Porsche. Sounds like a bit of a gimmick, but you can really see when you look at that temple, the way that it swoops around, it is very intentional. And for me, that swooping effect that they have does tie in with a slightly curved rectangular shape. But I think it does get better. A brand that is probably better in every single way is Reykjavik Eyes. For those who don't know by now, Reykjavik Eyes are the world's strongest and most comfortable glasses, at least in my experience. They're virtually unbreakable, even the rimless ones, and they're all laser cut from a single sheet of titanium. This model is the Henrik, and it features a geometric shape, which for me is a lot more interesting, and I think that ties in with a more interesting frame as well. But speaking of interesting, I do like the two-tone coloration, the fact that this is black on the outside, but then has that inner frame color as well, because that just gives them a little bit of intrigue as you see them from different angles. Reykjavik Eyes frames come from Reykjavik, the capital of Iceland, where they were designed by Gunnar Gunnarsson, who wanted to create basically the most hassle-free glasses, and I think that is what he achieved. Years later, their newest design was actually the Rimless Tech series, where they took their rimless frames and added a silicone band around the lens rim to give just a little pop of color. Where these frames are great are for those who really are kind of stuck with rimless frames but want something just that little bit more interesting and that little bit more defined. This model is the Cirrus and comes in this shield shape, which means it's squared off at the top, rounded at the bottom. But there are a variety of shapes in the Rimless Tech series and a variety of colors as well. You can customize that silicone band color as well as the frame color. Now, I talked earlier about customization, and I feel like we've not really fully explored that enough yet. That's about to change because with the Reykjavik Eyes Alba, which is, in my opinion, their coolest rimless frame, you get the addition of the floating brow bar. And the beauty of that is you get this really cool, really technical look that just makes your rimless glasses stand out from the crowd. Now, in my case, I customized my pair with this geometric shape and in the gray color with a blue gradient tint. But this just shows how you can take the exact same glasses, okay, a different colorway, but the exact same frames, and transform them completely with a different shape and a different lens tint. Here we have our proprietary apricot tint, one that I absolutely love, with a blue flash coating to complete it. And in this case, a more kind of conventional rectangular shape. Now with rimless customization, it doesn't just end at the shape. They can also be made in any size you like. And that is something we offer as standard. If you order a pair of rimless glasses from us, we're gonna make them in your exact size. That means that you always get the perfect fit. You don't have to worry about the size of the rimless frames that you're ordering. Now, moving on from Reykjavik Eyes, a brand that I've compared previously to them is Masunaga. And it's so interesting to see the entirely different design philosophy that they have. Masunaga being from Japan in one of the world's oldest eyewear factories, they've been operating since 1905 and completely revolutionized Japanese eyewear manufacturing. Brought it to where it is today, considered the best frame manufacturing region in the world. Masunaga frames are that bit more elegant, and it takes a different type of craftsmanship to achieve that. With the Masunaga Rimless series, we see lovely detailing around the bridge, around the lugs, as well as this almost like expensive pen kind of style on the temple. These frames therefore look much more business-like, but can be dressed down as well and can look really cool with the right lens tint. If you add a fun color to these lenses, they are completely transformed. This you could easily see working with a very formal suit, and they would just be the finishing touch to that. With the turquoise temple, they stand out a lot more and add a little bit of color. I could really visualize this with a matching lens tint in the same color. But my favorite rimless frame that Masunaga make, and one that I also own myself, is the GMS 122T. Really cool style feature of this frame, a little bit like the Porsche Design had its flowing titanium bridge, is the acetate bridge that you see here. I've never seen an acetate bridge like this on a rimless frame before Masunaga did it. And I love how it looks. I think it is such a young, youthful rimless frame. You do have to be somewhat careful with rimless glasses because without the right shape and tint, they can look quite old-fashioned. This is a really stylish, really fashionable take on rimless eyewear. You have zero branding on Masunaga. It's not about them, it's about the product. A final detail that I always appreciate on frames is the titanium nose pads. And this is a different way of achieving that compared to the Porsche Design, but works just as well. Now, those frames are comfortable. Reykjavik Eyes, I would say, are even more comfortable. I'd say they're the most comfortable glasses you can get. But a very close second are Flair. I mentioned earlier the story of Flair. They're still made in Germany and they are the world's oldest rimless frame brand. And we covered this model, which is the Pure series, which is about as minimalistic as it gets. Recently, Flair have brought out quite a few new models, and one in particular caught my eye as kind of like the next evolution of the Pure series. In this case, we see a very deep navy blue temple, which again gives the glasses a little bit more interest, and this frame is done in titanium as opposed to the biosteel that we saw earlier. They're both extremely durable materials. Technically, biosteel is more resistant to bending than titanium, by which I mean with titanium it will flex, but if you bend it to a certain point, it will then just snap. Tension point here where it goes to about there, and I think if I went any further, I would bend it irreversibly. Whereas with the biosteel, I can take this with my finger and thumb and literally bend it there, and that's pretty much at a right angle, and it feels like it doesn't really want to go more than that. So clearly the biosteel is more flexible. Now, in the case of the Reykjavik Eyes, as we mentioned, those are a different form of titanium. This is stripped titanium, so it has, that will go as far as the BioSteel did. So I don't think there's any difference in durability there. Anyway, back to these new Flair frames. They've actually developed a new mounting system which now features 2 drill points. With the 2-hole system, the glasses have become even more subtle from the front because you don't have anything interrupting your vision. And if you do want rimless glasses that give you the biggest expanse of clear vision, I would say that Flair are the brand to go for, with Lindberg being a close second. Now, this series comes in a variety of colors, and I picked 2. This one, the blue, obviously a little bit more masculine, especially with that rectangular shape. And this peach color, which also has a slightly more feminine shape to match. And in this case, we have the combination of that salmon color with gold. And this frame is obviously not going to suit me being ladies' glasses, but I think it does look really beautiful. Shapes like this with rimless frames, for me, are the way to go, because you just don't really find acetate or metal frames with this kind of shape. But with rimless, there are no limitations, there are no constraints. You can have anything you can imagine. Believe me, we've done it, because as you'll have seen if you subscribe to this channel, we've created so many different unique shapes in rimless glasses. This one is a lovely stock shape, and I think you could easily just stick with this exact shape in this frame, and I think it looks awesome. Now, I mentioned Lindberg, and it was about time that we covered arguably the most luxurious glasses in the world, and yes, I am including Cartier in that, because Lindberg are the only company with in-house goldsmiths who will actually hand make a frame from solid gold. Yes, this frame is solid gold, and instantly you can feel the weight of it. These frames, when you wear them, you're aware of them. Now, that doesn't make them uncomfortable because they're still not heavy compared to, a big, thick acetate frame. They're still relatively lightweight, but there's enough weight for you to know that they're there. And for a lot of people, that gives them a reassuring feeling. It certainly gives them a more luxurious sensation, I will say that. Particularly combined with the, believe it or not, solid gold nose pads. Every tiny millimeter of this frame is pure gold. And these frames are available in yellow gold, rose gold, white gold, and even black gold, which is pretty exotic. This model features an almost bamboo-like design, and it is a true work of art. It's masterful. If you had an unlimited budget and you wanted a pair of rimless frames, it's difficult to see how you could beat that. It looks extraordinary. Of course, like most rimless frames, these are very subtle from the front. You can change that with a cool shape and cool tint, as I keep saying, but from the side, you have that incredible detail. And it doesn't stop there. There are other ways of customizing your Lindberg solid gold rimless frames. Here we have the white gold, finished very simplistically, but embedded with 3 diamonds. And again, I love the shape on this rimless frame, but from the side, when those diamonds sparkle, they just look so elegant. That's a particularly good option if you're looking for really luxurious rimless frames for ladies. And then finally, one that I actually appreciate the most, because I know how difficult this is to do, we have the contrasting matte and gloss finishing that's applied to this checkerboard style temple. Unbelievable levels of craftsmanship, all handmade in Denmark. Lindberg, until recently, were a family-owned Danish company, although they have recently been purchased by Kering, who also own Cartier. So Kering are pretty much killing it when it comes to the luxury rimless eyewear market. We mentioned Cartier, and I think it's about time that we covered their rimless frames, because I would say that Cartier make the most iconic rimless glasses ever. What's special about Cartier is they have their own design language and philosophy that doesn't change with the times. It doesn't move with the fashions. It's completely timeless. And the design itself goes all the way back more than 100 years to the invention of the world's first wristwatch. So it's a design that is so true to Cartier's heritage and not trying to be anything else. That is why I love Cartier, and that is why they are the most special rimless glasses brand. This is their newest iteration of the Santos de Cartier line, and I love the use of the screws around the bridge and the lens mounting, where you can see it actually on the front of the lens. That is a really cool detail, and every year Cartier seems to get better at the Santos de Cartier line, and it is my favorite line within their collection. But we also touched on these before, and this is the Panther de Cartier, another iconic design from Cartier. These frames feature a literal panther down the temple. In this case, it's leaping forward. There are different, again, interpretations of the Panther de Cartier, and this is not the newest one, this is actually the classic design. But for me, in this case, the classic one is still the best because it's the most pure. The panther forms part of the design of the temple, and it's quite subtle at first. You wouldn't maybe instantly notice that it's there. In this case, it's platinum. All Cartier frames are either real gold or real platinum. But the most iconic of all within Cartier are the wood and horn rimless frames. In this case, we have the newest version of that, the green wood, which was brought out at the end of last year. This shade of green I think is quite easy to wear, relatively speaking. It's not like a bright green, but it stands out as just being so unusual. And the frames being made in wood means you get this really nice texture to them, which feels great when you wear them. They just feel so smooth on the skin. It's very difficult to describe, but each time you put these on, it feels like an occasion. And we've not even talked about the customization of these. In this case, we have a beautiful bottle green tint combined with a hexagonal shape and deep faceting around the back of the lens. And that deep faceting lends accentuation to the shape. In the case of the Panther frame, we have our own custom salmon tint, which is one that I love to recommend, by the way. And this time we have faceting on the front, at the top and the bottom. Now, lens faceting can be applied to any rimless glasses, and what faceting gives you is that shiny, polished edge. It makes the frames stand out even more, it makes them look more luxurious, and it makes the glasses always look more special and more intentional. If you want your rimless frames to look a little bit more dressy, I would always recommend to add faceting. And it can be done in a variety of ways, from really subtle to really bold. Now we're getting close to the end, and we've actually got our last rimless brand to cover. These are different than any of the other rimless frames on the table. The McLaren rimless series take rimless glasses to a very sporty extreme. And they're so different from your average rimless frames, both in aesthetic and performance. You see, rimless glasses tend to be a little bit more dainty, a little bit more fiddly in terms of getting them fitted correctly. With McLaren rimless frames, they just go on and they just stay on. You don't really need to adjust them. That's thanks to both the rubberized grips that I talked about earlier, but especially the anatomical nose pads. These are actually designed to mold to the shape of your nose when you wear them. The combination of those two things gives just effortless grip. And in this case, they're featured in the iconic McLaren orange. That is the signature color of McLaren, but you can tone it down a bit. You know, here we've got a blue shade, which I guess is going to be more popular, but an aviator shape that's more stylish and more fashionable. I love the combination of this aviator shape with the sporty temples. I think it just really works. Finally, we have the red, which is another really popular choice, and a really safe lens shape on this frame. I do recommend that you go a little bit braver when it comes to rimless frames. Why? Because they're so subtle anyway. It's not like you've got a big thick frame in that shape. So you can be a bit more adventurous when it comes to the shape, because ultimately they're still not going to look too crazy. So you can be a bit more experimental, and I think you should kind of avoid safe shapes like this. But for a lot of people out there, that is what they want. They want rimless glasses that are just very subtle. And that's it. Those are the world's best rimless frame brands. But there is one more name that I want to give a little bit of credit to, because Gast make the most affordable luxury rimless frames that you can get. And yes, they're not quite at the level of all the brands that we've covered today, but they are not that far off. And with the right shape, the right tint, they can look exceptional as well. So nowadays, even if you're shopping on a budget, you can get a great pair of rimless glasses. What do you think? How would you build your own rimless glasses? I would love to know, and I would actually love to create them for you. Did you know that we ship glasses to more than 30 countries all over the world, and I can guide you through customizing your own rimless glasses from start to finish, from the frames to the lenses, the material, the tint, everything. But I hope you have enjoyed this video. If you have, give us a like and subscribe to this channel for more of the best eyewear content on the internet. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks guys, bye bye.